The following video is from the SAHA Board meeting held Thursday, August 1st of 2013. George Alejos, LULAC District 15 Director of Affordable Housing, addresses SAHA concerning a no-knock warrant executed by SA Police on SAHA resident and Katrina evacuee, in which 2 dogs were shot and killed in front of the resident's 10-year-old boy. Child Protective Services was not called, and a 3rd dog was euthanized. Additionally, the boy's caregiver, a 22-year-old female, was placed naked outside the home and was later forced to dress in front of SA police officers. And finally, a false arrest was made of the resident, Jerry Hayes. Mr. Alejos believes that all of these actions were precipitated by a complaint of Mr. Hayes to SAHA about living conditions at the SAHA HUD approved housing unit.
Jerry Hayes. Mr. Hayes. Thank you.
This is my 2nd time back, and I'm just coming to speak on the same subject that I spoke on the first time, because we still haven't received any help with being disabled or, illiterate to education, and I feel like that shouldn't hold a place with us holding our housing vouchers. But since I left here, I've been in a situation that's exactly the same as what I said the first time. You could be accused of something, you could be set up with something, and without due process, you will be put out your house because that's the way the rules are set up. Whether you're disabled, we want to know if there's transitional housing available for us, emergency shelters, or what was put into place when we came in with Hurricane Katrina, because we're not receiving any help whatsoever from housing or HUD or whoever was supposed to take care of us while we are here displaced.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Appreciate it. I know that the staff is looking into the issue. Do you know what the eviction was for?
This time the eviction has not been put into place yet, but they say after the day it will be reviewed and it will be put into place. To my knowledge, July 18th, my house was invaded by officers and the landlord, who we later on found out was not the landlord, and he walked in and out of his raid as if he was one of those officers from 9:30 to 3:30, and at 3:30 I was detained, took down to magistrate, and they told me I was in possession of drugs, which I had no knowledge of, and I have not had any drug convictions or paraphernalia for my whole 40 years as of July 25th, and I felt like that was slanderous. And it's the 2nd time that this has been brought to my attention that I was supposed to have been a drug dealer with no evidence to prove it, and I have lost my house the first time, and here we go a 2nd time. So if I lost the first time without a drug conviction, case put on me, pending court, I know for a fact that they're going to terminate me a 2nd time. And again, I brought my 10-year-old son, who resides in the house with me, for everyone to see that we too live there alone. I am a single father, from what they had on the program, and I feel like this here fits me as much as it fits anybody in here as being a single parent, as well as someone who's disabled and being, victimized the way I am, only because I come up here to speak out. I was victimized 2-3 weeks after I left out this committee. It happened. But I'm not surprised, because I informed y'all that it would happen as soon as I left, and it just proved my point that it would happen, and it did. And I have proof back there in paperwork proving that I was victimized, and I have the LULAC organization, the NAACP, Ivy Taylor. They're all stepping in, and they are showing, great progress, and I'm excited, that they did help, and I was surprised that they helped, because normally we don't get help because we can't explain the situation the way it should be explained, or we don't have the proper paperwork to present for someone to be able to help us. But in this case, I do have all above.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for your articulate.
Thank you.
Your son's name is?
Tupac Amor Shakur Hayes.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Very famous.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
King of Peru.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. George Alejos.
Commissioners,
Mr. Bocha is assisting Mr. Hayes just for the minute.
Mr. Hayes' comments were very apropos, only because LULAC started looking at this case, and we have reason to believe that the gentleman's rights and his son's rights were violated, and also as well as the home provider that was there when the SWAT team, unannounced, using a no knock warrant, went in, busted down doors, windows, and shot 2 dogs in the presence of that little boy. So internal affairs is on it now. As I retained, my next step is to go to the FBI, because what happened to this gentleman July the 18th was very serious and egregious. I mean, I have reason to believe that they planted drugs in this place. We got witnesses. We even have a videotape. And I told Chief McManus, we met with Mr. Chief McManus and 2 of his captains on Tuesday, I believe. And we told this chief, we got video. And the chief wants it. I said, well, I'll give it to you when the person that has the video is willing to relinquish it to us. But the fact is that a lot of the things that went down that day were very egregious. I mean, I've never seen an officer shoot a dog in the presence of a 10-year-old. And CPS was not called. So this case is going to get a lot of attention. I mean, you have Trayvon Martin in Florida, San Antonio has Jerry Hayes. The other issue has to do with the way things went down that day. The police officers did so many things wrong that now the chief knows about what's going to happen, because our next step is to go to the U.S. Department of Justice as well as the FBI. On July the 18th, were viciously, in my opinion, mistreated by the San Antonio Police Department, in that they came in with a no-knock warrant, busted down windows, doors, and everything, looking for his drugs. The process traumatized the 10-year-old son, Tupac, because they shattered his window and shot into his room, his dog. And then they broke into the house, went to the rear room, and they had the little 10-year-old boy and his home health provider trapped, along with the dog that had been wounded, and they shot the dog in the presence of the 10-year-old and the provider. And the whole time they didn't find anything. It was a case of mistaken identity, to be honest with you. And at the same time, they took the lady out, set her down in the chair, and made her show up.
And then they know they couldn't climb hill, but they want to tie this up too. They did them too. And that's how we living right now. And that's, they get the other one. Don't want to take them inside so you see all the blood and everything. But when they killed the dogs.
So that?
Yeah, you can show up.
This person is from the San Antonio Housing Authority Section 8 program. He's protected under the American Disabilities Act. Everything they did to this poor family was totally out of line. This is how they left the house. This is how they tore into the house. Just like you see it, is how they left it.
Stop, Riri. Hey, move. She's trying to help you out. Move back. And that's the room from the inside. Come on, Mama, you in the way.
You live again? Hello? Hello?
This is the kitchen. Move back, Riri. You in the way, Mama.
That's one of the poor dogs that
You in the way,
we're trying
Mama.
to kill.
Hello? Right here.
Oh, yeah, that's when she first ran in the house out of his room. She ran right there and showed in that way she tried to run against the wall.
And he ran in here with the dog.
Come here, Riri. You come out of there. Come over there.
Forget the stench, but they were told to leave it as is. This is where Tupac was, and the home provider. And that's all the blood from where he shot the dog.
And show them out the window over there when they
The window has a bullet
was
hole.
chasing the dog over there.
They
They
missed
chased
it.
it. They missed her.
They missed it, they shot there,
Over
then the dog was trapped there,
Yep, right
and
there,
then
trying
they
to jump
just
up the
blasted
stairs
it
over
with a
there.
shotgun. It's all
Shot
the
her right
blood there against the wall.
And that's when she bust her head at against the wall over there.
That's when they knocked the home health provider against the wall, and she knocked the hole in the drywall there.
See, these are steps she was on. She told you they knocked her backwards. These are steps they knocked off of.
There's all the blood, everything. What we're going to do next is move this family out of here, because this is the way SWAT left it.
Well, thank you for sharing the
ma'am.
story,
Thank
and
you,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry about what happened to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah. Talk to them. Let them know how you feel and what they did.
I feel very sad because they killed all my dogs.
Did they do it in front of
Can
you?
you tell me a little about your dogs?
Whatever.
They all was on. One of them was outside.
Yeah.
And then he was laying down. They just shot him.
And they just shot
He
it.
was stretching, tell him exactly what he's doing.
And then he was stretching about to go use the restroom. And then he seen them, and then he started running, and they just shot him. And then they busted out all the windows and jumped on my bed.
Tell him what they did through your window, what came through your window.
Oh, and then they threw a gas through the window. And I was in the cup, and I was trying to read, but they told me to put my hands over my head.
What they did to TT when they told you that?
They killed her.
They shot her in your room.
Oh, yeah.
And then she ran here, that's
And
what
then she
right
ran
there.
right here. And then she got cornered up in the room. And then they just shot her 4 times.
And that had to make you afraid.
They all started kicking her, pushing her, and throwing her against walls.
And what she have on when they stuck outside?
Nothing.
Let the camera know. Let them know she was in the nude when they stuck outside.
And who is Jasmine?
Oh,
His home health care provider,
And how old is she?
22.
And they put her outside without any clothes on. In the
To the
nude.
neighbor's yard also.
Right there.
They put her outside in the neighbor's yard in the nude. And we just got an affidavit in the mail.
Yeah.
And we have a previous affidavit that also specifies that she was outside in the nude. And you have several neighbors that say she was in the nude. And you have a young man who's scared for his life, but he have everything on video.
But there was no reason for them. This was an accident?
Like this, no ma'am, because they said they followed me away from the house. And they asked me who was in the house. I told them the child was in the house, and his home health care provider was in the back. I told them the dogs were not vicious, and it's like they just misinterpreted what was said, or they just misconcluded what was said. And if they was not gonna act positively, why would you ask who's in the house and where they're located at if you're not gonna take a proper protocol to do it safely, like they put in your police report? You said a minimum amount of force was used, but that's not the truth. A major use of force was used because 2 dogs was killed. A woman was beat up in front of a patient, and she was taken outside into the nude. And the child just explained to you that she went out in the nude. The neighbor said she went out in the nude, and her affidavit specifies she went out in the nude right here. Specifies she went out in the nude, and the second affidavit we have from Samantha Hurd also specifies she was in the nude, and the detective had to come and tell those them out of uniform officers, hey, she need clothes on. This is our constitution. She gotta have clothes. And that's when they brought her a pair of shorts, and she said they brought her inside and made her change right there in front of them. And
In front of the police officers.
It's all in her affidavit. They all sat there and watched while she put her clothes on.
How many police officers were here?
For what I was told, it was a count of 12 with the SWAT team.
Did anyone on the force offer any apology, because it was clearly mistaken identity?
No, ma'am, they didn't. But I was informed by E. Flores, badge number 380, that the raid was conducted by, the affidavit was put in by the landlord who owns the house, and who, well, claimed he owned the house, but he's not the owner anymore. His daughters in Houston will be the new owners. And Mr. Flores, again, informed me, and I was parked right there in the street in the police car, and he informed me that he was summoned by SAHA and the landlord. And he said, we'd rather be doing something else, but they sick me on you. You must have pissed somebody off in the SAHA.
Right.
And I said, well, the only thing I did to SAHA was I just came out of a preliminary hearing the other day. I went to the hearing and spoke. That was all I know that I could have did to make them mad, was speaking on how disabled people are being treated, which is, this incident is just a prime example on how we're treated as disabled people.
Okay, so essentially SAHA, you went to speak at SAHA, and
Yes, ma'am.
And your landlord was unhappy possibly, and that's who reported you, and it was a false claim to get police officers out here, and there were 12 police officers.
Yes, ma'am, because he
And
wanted
they raided your
possession
home.
back of his house.
Oh,
and
dear.
And he didn't want to pay it through the courts because he failed inspections, which means the judge is not going to make it in his favor.
Right.
So he wanted us out because he's losing money. So the only way we can get him out is by bringing some buddies I know in and allocating something, because the judge is not going to throw him out, because with the SAHA thing pending, it shows everything's in my favor because you failed inspection. And that's why Mr. George want to know, how did you even pass the inspection the first time?
Right.
Because the doors are cut too short,
Right.
which means air, heat, everything comes in. There was no air conditioning units. And I'd like you to come see our heater unit, showing we have no heat also. This is our heater unit, which does not work. There's no mute mercury. There's nothing to make that operational. And this is what he give us for heat. This is face part to the head on there. Yes. It's taped on there. But we have no heat. And as you see, we have no AC units. That fan right there is the only thing we have. It's just that fan and that one ceiling fan.
Oh, dear.
And this is how we sleep, you know, from time to time until they give us better accommodations. But I just asked them for in the hearing. I asked them if I was being disabled. We FEMA evacuees. What happened to our transitional housing? What happened to our emergency housing? What happened to the shelter? Or at least enforce the landlord to board up the windows by good living standards by HUD and the U.S. Department of Justice. But none of that has been done. Right. So I have reported that to Ivory Taylor, which is our city council for this east side area. It was taken to her attention yesterday at 11:30.
Okay, and again, you're here as a Katrina evacuee, and of course San Antonians like to believe that the Katrina people were treated well, and clearly this is not being treated well.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Okay.
We've been treated totally unfairly only because we chose to speak out for ourselves as well as other people who are disabled, dysfunctional, who cannot speak for themselves, who might be mental retarded and be still admonished from the program because they have no knowledge of the law as well as no knowledge of the program. So as being citizens that has no knowledge of anything, they are being discriminated against. And they're being tossed out in the streets and they got to fend for self. And that's not the way our system is set up. It's set up to where if they're disabled, we have more programs to help y'all out. We have churches and shelters and things like that we would refer y'all to or send them to y'all. And I even got caseworkers through my mayor group who are stepping out to try to help, and they have nothing to do with this, but they feel like they do, and that's a good thing. Right. So they do more, the insurance company is doing more than the housing authority, and it shouldn't be that way. Insurance company just to make sure our health is in good condition, but they're making sure everything is stable, housing, insurance, medical needs, our insurance that I get, my medications I get, his school activities, his home health care services. A mayor group makes sure we get all these things, and that's the most positive thing that I can say about any organization that's helping out besides the LULAC organization and the city council's office, who's also stepping in, which was a surprise, but I'm glad to see that we all can come together and nip this in the bud and get justice for myself, my son, his provider, as well as our 3 dogs that was killed, and one was euthanized, and we was just told that as of I think last year or 3 years ago, dogs are not to be euthanized no more. So what gave my dog an exception to be euthanized? Right. You know, it's just a question that nobody answered, even though they did accept responsibility. But action have not been taken yet because there's other things that we got that's more serious. But they did admit to fault, and I think that's outstanding that they can, you know, make a mistake but not be afraid to admit to their mistake. And the animal control shelter admitted that they was wrong. That they did to the fullest, and they did feel sincere about it. And I think that was because the 2 that came to me was elderly people, females, and they was not the one that put the needle inside the dog, so they sent them to come speak on behalf. But I was kind of relieved because they did tell the truth. There wasn't no cover up. We don't know where he at, or we don't know what happened. They admitted, we put him to sleep on accident. We don't know how or why, but it happened. And that's the only thing you can ask when the situation's been done and there's nothing you can do to change it. That's the most you can ask for the truth.
So 2 dogs were shot and killed, and 1 was euthanized.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait. The question is then, SAHA has the ability, because of FEMA funds, to provide you housing, and this is the best that they could do for you?
Yes, ma'am. It's not the best. They didn't do anything. This is their worst, and they just left it. How it happened, that's the way they left it. And they feel like, since I cannot directly put them involved with this, they feel like they shouldn't have to do anything. But by the standards and the voucher that I have, because I refuse to I refuse to convert my voucher over to a new voucher. I left it to where FEMA's in control of my voucher, which means when something happened to me, I call U.S. Department of Justice or I call Washington, D.C. FEMA comes out, talks to HUD, HUD talks to SAHA, and everything goes back the way it's supposed to be, not the way they want it to be. This is the second house that we didn't got, because we was thrown out before for the same thing. They accused me of being a drug dealer. They accused me of being a menace to my society, my community. I got affidavits to prove them wrong, and the house was given back. Now here again, they use the same allegations. I'm a menace to my society. My community don't like me. They file complaints on me. And when they come out to ask these neighbors that, if I'm this big of a problem and menace, why doesn't any one of these people want to conversate with y'all? Once y'all want to use y'all witnesses, why don't want to talk for y'all now?
Right.
But when y'all did y'all illegal raid, you put the barrier on these people saying they the one helped you out and called you, complained to you, cried to you. But if they'd have done that, I'm pretty sure by me being out, they would want me out of their neighborhood, their community. So why didn't they come to you and speak to you when you knocked on their doors? They don't want to talk to you because they don't know what's going on. They don't want to be put in the middle of something they know nothing about. They just try to put the whole community in this thing saying, hey, y'all said that this guy was outcast, this guy's doing this, doing that. But now y'all don't want to come out and speak. Now we raid him, don't nobody want to come out and say nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, see, because you want them to feed into your illegal raid because I have a few problems with my neighbors and stuff, but that's life. Everybody have a problem with their neighbors. But as you see, they got worked out because if the problems was that serious, they would have came out and they would spoke out. But they have not spoken out, which means there was nothing to speak out about, and it was all set up by the landlord who refused to use the proper channels, which is the JP courts. And by him knowing somebody in task force, he decided to use them for his muscle, instead of using the court system for a tool the way it's supposed to be used, the way it was put together to be used. He decided to go around that because if he used the courts and it falls short in his favor, that's more money he got. Now he got to go get an attorney. And he don't want to do all these things because the house don't belong to him.
Plus the officer told you that SAHA sicked him out.
That's why I explained that to the camera. And you know, when you think about it, why would he want to fix something if it don't belong to him? He stands to lose more by adding money to something that don't belong to him.
Right, right.
So he took the easy route out. Hey, I'm going to get my buddies at the task force and just lie to them and tell them, hey, we got all kind of drugs in here, and look at the history of my house.
Right.
Look how many drug dealers came in and out of here. But I want to know what evidence you got to support that allegation of that warrant, I mean that affidavit that you put in, because if you can't prove that it was something in here, that means that affidavit was frivolous. And the only way you can prove it is you gotta have access to this unit. Now if you access to this unit without my consent, that means you broke in. Because you do have a key just like I got a key. When I leave out to go do our jobs, he goes to the Boys and Girls Club, you got access to the house, neighbors ain't gonna say nothing because they know it's your house. So he was just going in and out as he pleased. And I guess when that day of transition took place, all those hours went by, they couldn't find nothing. They came, I started arguing with him. He turned around, go in the house, and stayed in there for about, what, 20, 30 minutes, comes out, all of a sudden they say, okay, you got a drug case, possession with intent to manufacture and distribute. I said, no, I don't. He said, yes, you do. I said, you didn't get it out of my pocket. He said, yeah, we got it out of one of your pants pockets inside the house. I said, well, why the dog didn't find it when you took the canine off? Why he didn't find it? And then in that report that he put out, they said it was in my possession, which means in my persons. And the reason why they said that, I went back and researched, that's the law. The law is it's got to be 9 tenths of law, means it got to be in your possession, on your persons. But it was not. That's why they try to say, okay, well, it was in your house. We the one for the house, so we found it in the house.
Yeah.
So that's how they put the charges on me. I was bonded out by Jones Bail Bond right up there on New Braunfels. I called them by phone. They came and got me out immediately, and I've been out ever since.